We'll order the City of McMinnville Safety Committee meeting to discuss a couple of items tonight on the agenda. Number one being the discussion of the purchase of ballistic vests for the patrol officers and disposition of surplus vehicles.
Okay. We're requesting that you review a quote from GT Distributors for the purchase of 15 ballistic vests for police officers. Currently, there are 15 police officers that need their ballistic vests upgraded to include new ballistics in the outer carrier. Outer carrier designed to allow for more equipment to be carried on the vest instead of on their utility belts. The funds are available in the budget, and the quoted price by GT Distributors is $17,840.70. It's from the buy board contract 698-23.
All right, and we bought some last time for the SWAT guys. This just, this is everybody. This is everybody that's left.
That's the ones that are left there, right?
These are
Patrol.
patrol
Yes.
vests. This for everyone to get a update vest patrol.
All right, and that does have plates.
It's from the same company. we bought.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
recognize it. I
GT.
recognize the name on that. Okay, all right. I'll entertain a motion to approve this purchase of vests for the patrol officers.
I make a motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, and that motion will be to send to the full board since it's over the $10,000 limit. And how time sensitive is this, Chief? Do we need to move on this tonight?
Did you find out how long it would take?
Well, the ones we received in the past, it's about a 90-day term.
Hmm.
So it does take a little bit. He has to come up here, he measures each officer individually, and takes his measurements back and places his order. So we have two vests just like this, they're already in use, one lieutenant and sergeant. And it was about a 90-day turnaround for those. So
So we're in the.
maybe 90 days, maybe longer, 15, I don't know. But that's what we've experienced. So
I don't care to do that tonight in the full board. That way we don't have to wait any longer, but.
Okay, great. Then we'll move to suspend the rules with the permission of the members and try to get this done for you tonight.
Great.
All right, thank y'all. And then we've got, the next item is you've got a couple of McMinnville's finest 12-year-old police cruisers that we need to get rid of, correct?
Correct. These vehicles are over 10 years old and have mechanical issues that require their replacement. So we're asking to declare them as surplus.
And that would just go on Gov Deals or
Deals.
whatever you do there.
Yeah, I don't think I know one of them didn't even start or anything, so I may scrap it.
Fair enough. Well, I'll entertain a motion to dispose of these two vehicles through the normal methods.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Chief. I believe that concludes our business for tonight, and this committee meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
I will call this meeting to order then, so we can get on. Ricky?
Well, Nathaniel will talk about the water treatment plant
Okay.
upgrades. I do have a handout that I will hand out.
Okay.
So I'll let him.
So.
I'll let Ricky get everything handed out before I start talking. That way nobody distracted by his good work there.
They're going to share.
I think I brought one, so.
I was gonna cover.
Say that.
All right, everybody. So, I know that you have your form about the reason that we're called here tonight, which is obviously never a fun form to have, right? But at the same time, it does show progress, and the progress that we've made in the past little bit is that we have some additional information back from the state revolving fund loan program. If you'll recall, we had applied for them for a $5.7 million loan that would be there to match the funding that comes from the ARP program. The ARP program, when you add the two together, you get a number that's about $8.212 million. for the upgrades at the water treatment plant. Now, we coordinated as the city and James C. Haley and Company, and we followed through on our commitment to the state of Tennessee and provided them with plans, specifications, contract documents, facilities plan by the deadline, which was May the 31st of last year. Okay, so in the time after that, they have a period where that they are required to review financial sufficiency and some other things. We have to provide to them documentation also that shows that we've had a public meeting, which we held last week. Once we had our financial sufficiency letter or our notice of what would be required with respect to any increases in rates. And what they do is they take a look at where your current revenue versus expenses stands. And they try to extrapolate into the future what that's going to look like and how that you're going to pay back the loan that you take out from them. One very positive thing that's associated with this loan is that $2.85 million of it, 50% of the 5.7 is in the form of grant, which is basically the highest across the board grant that SRF has been giving. And it's all because of the BIL money that we have. Additionally, with the around $3 million that we'll be having from the ARP funding, in collaboration with that, it means that the city of McMinnville will be on the hook for paying back $2.85 million of the overall 8.2 that we're estimating. And so even with all that said together, we received some contact with the State Revolving Fund Loan Program. Their accountants contacted me and they said, hey, the city needs to increase their rate by, and this was an ongoing process in the beginning of February. They said the rates needed to be increased by, I think at that time it was around 3.5% is what they said. And so I contacted them and I said, I'm surprised by that, looking at the increase in revenue that the city of McMinnville has had over the past 3 fiscal years, which is what they look at. And their explanation, and also I made another couple of observations that they were only counting McMinnville in for 20% grant and not 50. And so I posed the question and I said, hey, what's going on here? Why are we only getting 20 whenever it said 50 in the notice? And the information that they gave back to me was, well, our management said that you were only going to receive 20. So I said, well, can I speak to your management? So we get in touch with management, who we're working for consequently on the ARP funding. And they said, no, that had been a misreading, that it was 50%. So it is the 50% of that 5.7 million that you would be getting as grant, not 20% as grant. And so that reduced the amount. But then I also went back and I said, the city of McMinnville has come up and they have I would say a capital improvements fund of, somewhere around $4 million. That's what is sitting there. I said, so what if the city committed to putting $500,000 of their own reserves into funding it? What would that cause it to look like? And that number was about 3.19%. Okay, so we went from 3.4, then they came back and they said, okay, no, it's not 50%. We're at 3.23. The additional 50%, or the additional $500,000, if you were to pay it in, it didn't knock the percentage increase down very much at all. And so to me, considering the fact that the funds that we're looking at, the interest rate over 20 years is 1.07%, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me to try to knock that down anymore by trying to spend more of the capital that you have, whenever you could go out and get a CD and get an interest rate right now that's quite a bit higher than 1%. Now, in addition to that 1.07%, there will be a 0.08% fee that comes directly from the state revolving fund loan people. That's an administrative fee that they tack on. So it's 1.15. So the numbers that you have here, and looking at it, it's going to be somewhere around that whenever it comes to the refunding or the payback of the loan. And so in discussing with Ricky, one of the things that we really kind of got into whenever we started looking at the plant, and I know in the beginning, let's say back in 2020, whenever I was having these conversations and meetings with you about rate increases when we were in the Park Theater, And, you know, I felt like I was putting on a play, or you guys were the play and I was the spectator. I don't know. But anyway, so the conversations that we were having in the back and forth was trying to look at what the capital improvement, you know, what all the capital improvements look like going forward. The overall budget that we had at that point in time was between $8 and $9 million. That was the overall. That was water and sewer. And now we're talking about a water treatment plant that we're estimating. And as recently as last May, whenever we submitted all the documents, at 8.2 million. Now, where is that going to be now? We're not exactly sure. So we're looking at being able to have additive and deductive alternates that would allow us to be able to pivot. And also, we're running out of time with respect to our ARP funding. That funding has to be expended by September the 30th of 2026. Some of the lead times on electrical equipment that we have been coming in at 52, 70 weeks, which eats into a lot of that time that we have. I know that SRF knows that I'm disappointed that they've taken from May 31st of last year to February of this year to finally come up and give us the information that we need to be able to try to move forward. And now, unfortunately, with the letter that they had provided to the mayor over the last couple of weeks, they are expecting you guys to approve this rate increase within 60 days of February the 27th, in order to make sure that you have your 50% grant that was given to you basically by SRF. And it looks like that I'm not saying they would take it away if we were a little bit past that date, but I'm trying my best to make sure that we hit what we are, because I don't want to be responsible for you not getting your $2.85 million in grant. And I definitely don't want to be responsible for the ARP funding being potentially clawed back because we've not made enough progress on the treatment plant work. And so with all of that said, the recommendation that, in speaking with Ricky and coordinating with staff here, the recommendation that we have is not just to do the minimum of 3.23, but to do the 5%. And the reason being is because it was a year ago that we had that last estimate, I'm not exactly sure where we're going to be. I know there are things that Ricky definitely does not want to take off the table with respect to additive or deductive alternates on the construction. And so that puts us in a position to where if there is a cost overrun and we need to move into additional working capital to be able to make sure that we can fund it, it's my belief, now they've not told us 100%, but if let's say the number comes in at 10 million and we need an additional 2 from SRF, that BIL money is there. The number is 50%, and typically it's been 50% up to X number of $1 million, about $10 million. So I think that there's this strong potential that we could get half of whatever additional funding that we asked for in the form of grant. But needless to say, that means that we would also have to provide additional funding for that additional loan that would be taken out too. And so that's the reason that I would go with the 5% between that and, you know, anticipated increases in any other cost of living expenses or anything like that you could potentially have. So I can be quiet or I can keep talking, whatever you guys want.
I have a question about this, just to be sure I understand. So we got if I'm not mistaken, we have 2 issues. We got a debt service issue, then we got a depreciation issue, right? Don't we have to cover that in the enterprise fund?
So the way that they allow you to do it on an accrual basis, and so they allow you to use that principal payment as part of your
To cover the depreciation. Okay, so that contribution will go against the depreciation.
absolutely.
And
All
not
that they're
affected.
requesting at minimum is that 3.23.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, sir.
Any other questions?
You really, you don't really have much choice, because they're telling you gotta raise your rates or we're not getting, or this won't work out.
Yeah. Now, the
Your
other options,
question.
you know, are bond market, but you're going to be paying back the full amount at that point.
And the only question is by how much more than what they're recommending.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Any others? I guess I'm allowed to make a motion, yes? Well, I make a motion, we go with a 5% increase. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you guys very much. We'll keep pushing on.
Thank you. Is there any other business to come before this committees? If not, we are adjourned.
Grounds Committee meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is to consider the surplus property. Now, assuming no one will tell us about it. Are you gonna tell us about Sally's Alley or the
Yeah.
property of joining it?
Yeah, it's a property adjoining Sally's Alley. It is not Sally's Alley, so. This property was donated by the Clarks to the city in 2019. We don't, as far as I know, have any current use for the property. There's some interest in it, and that's about it.
Does it have any, there's no use for it because that little trail runs through there or anything? It's not a good picnic zone.
I don't think the trail goes through that area. I think it goes through down below. And Justin
Oh, I will see that.
could you confirm? Is that right?
That's correct. The trail doesn't go.
Yeah. So it would, I mean, the parking lot that's there at the end of Sally's Alley would remain. Everything else would remain. It's just that small piece of property there behind the property that faces Beersheba Highway. Used to be seated in Montmature.
So it would be declared surplus and are you just, how are you gonna bid? Are you gonna let it be open bidding or are you gonna put a limit on it or with reserve or?
I would guess the same as last time, so. No limits, just. Open it up for a couple weeks and see what we get.
Your neighbors down there, do you have any?
I just don't want my alley stuff. Other than that, I'm fine with it.
So the trail does not go across this property?
No, I believe it kind of goes down. Down
It's
towards the-
beyond that property, I think, isn't it?
Yeah,
Way past it.
I think it shows it a little, it's like, I think that must be it right there.
When you turn off Beersheba Road onto Sally's Alley, it's actually a drive more than a trail. And it goes down to the bottom of the hill to the river called Sally's Alley proper.
And there's, I mean,
I don't have it.
there's nothing to use for that recreational area. Yeah, there's no use for it to connect it or do anything with, or is it just not seem useful for that at all?
It doesn't seem useful to me. I mean, me and Sean and Nolan have looked at that property.
Well, what could possibly go in there? I mean, what's it zoned?
I don't know the zoning. Let's see here. R3.
So on my map, is Sally's Alley, is that the drive where you drive?
That's correct. Yeah.
I walk down there, so I'm not, so the. Is that little faint line below that, is that the pathway?
The one that kind of curves.
Yes.
Down to the river, looks like the walking pathway, yes. Kind of at the end of where it says Sally's Alley, there's that gravel, you can see the gravel parking lot area.
Mhm.
You would park in that area and then you can access the trail there near the corner of this property that we're talking about. And then walk on down to the trail along the river there.
Space.
Wait, that's a popular fishing spot below that gravel parking lot.
The one that's highlighted,
This 3.0.
It's 3.0, yep.
I mean, it just looks like it's,
how's it
Right
go all the way
there.
to the river and not on the trail? That's what I don't
Trail's
understand.
not-
I'm asking a stupid
the
question.
trail's right here. It's showing it right here. It goes this way. It's just hard to see.
If you look at the map where it's got bearing 4, the trail's running parallel to the bank of the river
Right.
through that section and down below Sally's Alley. Some people park in that gravel parking lot in Sally's Alley and walk back, because again, that's a real popular fishing spot.
Right.
Well, I guess what everybody's thinking is if you've got some land right there by your recreational area, are you sure you want to get rid of it? So. You know, usually
That's
you
up to
want
you all.
to, usually you want to keep that, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been out of town. I have not been down there to look at that. So, you want to take a look at it this week and come back and talk about it, or?
That'd be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I hate to get rid of something and then regret it.
Sure.
So we want to, do I have a motion to table this?
Motion.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any other further discussion? Any other items to come before this committee? This committee meeting is adjourned.
Finance Committee will bring to order. We have one item on the agenda. That's updating of purchasing policies, and would you like to tell us about that, Sam?
Our current person policy was adopted, I believe it was 2001. It's recommended we review it more often than we have. So we need to review those purchasing policies to stay in compliance with what our strategic plan was last year and to just catch up a little bit, I think. So what I've done is I've taken our current Title V and amended it based on other cities and MTAS recommendations and made sure it was in compliance, but didn't go, for example, the municipal purchasing law of 1983 said we can increase our competitive bid limit up to 25,000. That seemed like a large jump for us, so we didn't go all the way, but somewhere in the middle. MTAS, two different consultants at MTAS have told us that we're well within the bounds of the purchasing law and what we can do within our charter type. So I've put out some notes there about what was changed in that section. For example, no changes to a lot of them, or a few of them, and then a lot of the comptroller and impasse recommendations changed. A few of them need to be rescinded entirely because they don't necessarily comply with current purchasing laws. So we can't give preference to local dealers, things like that. We need to get those out of that policy. So this policy addresses RFBs, RFPs, and RFQs, whereas our current purchasing policy only explicitly outlines for RFBs, so sealed bids. We need to establish just a clear guideline and when those should be used and when they shouldn't be used. It also outlines things for emergency purchases, secondhand or used items from other governments, similar to the tractor we purchased for Parks and Rec last year. We were allowed to do so, but we jumped through a few more hoops than we would by having it already in black and white in an updated policy. So this policy takes care of all of that, and it also increases the limits for what the committee can approve before it goes to the full board for resolution. It also increases the department and city administrator level of what they are able to approve. This does not take out the item must be budgeted in the current fiscal year budget before it is purchased, regardless of who has the authority to make the item purchase. It has to already be appropriated in that budget. So this isn't taking that out. We don't even have the authority to do that. So I've put those limits in there, and I've got a little table if I think it's easier to see it this way for me personally. But the city administrator would have everything up until $10,000. A committee would go from $10,000 to $19,999, and then the board would still approve everything over $20,000. So that would be every vehicle. I think we'd have a hard time finding a vehicle right now for less than $20,000. Major equipment, any major large purchases would still have to go through the channels that they go through today. The big advantage to updating these policies is changing that $2,500 competitive bid and increasing that up to $10,000. So everything over 10 would still have to be competitively bid, publicly advertised, sealed, open, just as they are now. But anything less than 10,000, there's a few different tiers, but as long as we receive 3 quotes or have 3 published pricing, it actually says in the newspaper or some publicly available article, which would also include online pricing. So we can use those to justify the purchase now instead of making our bidders go through. And we can amend these limits. These were a middle of the road area. It's where I've ended up at based on those recommendations.
I mean, I remember those limits being in place for, I think, as long as I've been here, and I mean, just inflation alone adds a lot to that. Seems like, pumps and that sort of thing, we're always having to approve things that the department head really ought to be able to do themselves, so.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna be buying any more stuff. We're just paying more for the stuff we're already buying.
Unfortunately, so. This would definitely clear up the sewer pump station. Some of those pumps have had to be classified as emergency purchases in the past. Whereas they would fall well within the $4,000 mark that Ricky could go and make that purchase.
And
so-
just like tonight's committee meeting, the safety committee meeting, we could, at the committee level, we could have approved it. We don't have to go to the board, suspend the rules. That would be done,
Absolutely.
so.
This is the mechanism to get us there. And it aligns with our strategic plan that we've been discussing. It would take a ordinance reading by 2 votes to change the current municipal code ordinance.
I do have one question, and because I'm thick-headed, as you know. So Class A said purchases of like items or services in which the aggregate amount exceeds 20,000 in a 12-month period. Are those going to be defined within the budget? Because of what you said, about has to be appropriated in the budget. With that line item vendor expense code, how do we define that so we know that clearly in the say September 1?
So that would be like chemical bids for the water plant. They're bid out and we just classify that, I believe, under your chemical supply line. Where each invoice isn't necessarily over the threshold, but we've bid it out and we have that for the whole fiscal.
So that would basically be like annual contracts for stuff. Okay, all right,
Yes.
thank you. It was kind of funny.
It is worded.
Worded was weird.
It's hard to follow along in the text and that's why it's taken a while to put it together, but I've had a few people vested to help make sure that we were trying to get across what we wanted to get across. And the table, I think, really helps define that and makes it clear for you all, for us, for all the department heads to just be able to know whenever they go into a purchase, this is the step I'm going to have to take to make that purchase.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? No, I'll entertain a motion to recommend this to the full board.
So moved.
Have a motion.
I'll second that motion.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else to come before the finance committee, this meeting is adjourned.
Hearing to hear comments regarding amendments to the building permit fees for the city of McMinnville. Believe that's sufficient time to hear comments. We'll consider this public hearing closed.